Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Now What Show. I'm your host, Amber Christian, editor of Handmade Seller Magazine. Today, it is my privilege to welcome Emma from the Glass Crocodile. Now, this one's a treat. She doesn't normally put her face on camera, and so I've been able to get her to actually record on camera. So we're very excited about this today. So, welcome to the show, Emma. And can you please tell us about your business?
Well, thank you, Amber. I'm Emma, and I am the Glass Crocodile. There's no sort of business people hidden behind me. It's just me. And yeah, I design and make stained glass here in Somerset in the UK. Would you like to know a little bit about how I started the business?
Yes, please.
Wow. Okay. Well, this all started during lockdown. So when everybody was out queuing for the toilet roll, going into supermarkets, pushing and shoving, I went to visit my father in law. Now, my father in law lives in the north of England, and I'm a southern girl. And when I got there, he was very excited to see me because I hadn't been in 10 years, which makes me a terrible person. But my father in law had a box for me, and in this box, I know it could have
Hmm.
been anything, but it wasn't. It was a box full of stained glass equipment. Now, I had never looked at stained glass before, never thought about stained glass, didn't really know what was involved in stained glass. But he got very excited and he's like, Emma, take this box away with you and see if you can do anything with it. And I thought, do you know what? I reckon I could. I reckon I could. And so what I did was I researched online, like we all did. We were all going a bit loopy. I'm sure many people learnt to knit and crochet, but no, I learnt to make stained glass. And what happened was I taught myself how to cut glass, how to solder glass, how to lead glass. I am slightly obsessed with glass, Amber. You may have noticed by this point. And at the time, at the time, I was working for a DIY store here in the UK, and the very first thing I created, because in this box was some green glass, so I decided I was going to make a crocodile because it was green textured glass. And I thought this crocodile was magnificent. I mean, it was big and it had teeth. And I took pictures in to my fellow workers who laughed at said crocodile. I know. I didn't know what the crocodile was. Some people thought it was a snake. And I thought, do you know what? I'm going to show you. So I became the glass crocodile and I've embraced the crocodile. And I now take my stained glass out and I trade regularly at Comic Cons and craft fairs, and people love it. Love my work.
Now,
That's
isn't
how I
it
started.
funny? Isn't it funny how you can go from, whenever any of us start a craft, none of us are particularly good at it when we first start, or we may think we're better than we are. So here you've gotten the green glass, and so you've made your crocodile, and nobody knows where it is. Now, how did you make that decision to go from, we don't know what it is, to, oh, maybe I should give up, to, well, nope, I'm just going to keep going and refine it? Because a lot of people, that first showing people of the thing they've created is a little bit of a fragile time, and then they look at it and they laugh. And so what in you was like, nope, I'm going to keep going? What
Well,
can you talk about that?
people that know me will know that I'm not a quitter. But you're right. I could have easily just given up. But I didn't want to. I loved it. When I first cut that glass, I knew it was the hobby for me. I mean, I'm quite artistic, and I draw and I paint and whatever. But there was something about glass and the qualities of it, and the fact that every piece of glass is different. I don't paint on the glass. The glass comes with colours and bubbles and flecks within it. And I look at a piece of glass and it's not like weird, like the glass doesn't talk to me or anything like that, but I'll see something where I think, my goodness, that specific fleck running through it would look just beautiful, as for example in Cinderella's carriage or something like that. But I'm not a quitter, Amber, and I started making kind of geeky things. I make things I love. So Star Wars and Doctor Who were my first sort of first loves, and I created things from those sort of shows. Well, inspired by those shows. I mean, I'm not pretending they're the real thing, but yeah,
Hmm.
inspired by those shows. And you know, those people at that hardware store, they soon sort of started to take notice when I was making things that they could relate to and that they could recognise.
Hmm. And so for you, a traditional craft fair is not where you would sell. At what point did you realize that your style was starting to shift and that traditional craft fairs weren't really the place for you to sell?
Well, people were telling me. People were telling me,
Mm.
and I'd never been to a Comic Con, never. And actually, people think that you can just go and trade easily at a Comic Con. You would think, yeah, you would think that you just apply like everybody else and you pay your money and you get your table. But no, it's a strict process. When you apply, you have to be accepted. So trying to get people or organisers to think, hang on a minute, this is stained glass. Why are we going to want this? So I fire them pictures and whatever of my stall now. But at the beginning, it was hard. Nobody wanted to take me. And the very first Comic Con I did was here in my own town, and it was by a group run by Stars of Time, and they have embraced me now. And the very first people I met were people dressed up as Daleks, and they've took me under their wing. I know I've become like a little Dalek follower, and they've all gone on then in time and had their individual Daleks made in stained glass. So it's growing and expanding, and it's really exciting, Amber.
Hmm. And when you're first and when you're early and you have such a unique product, it is hard to get people's attentions. And so even, a lot of what you will see at cons is this lower priced, a lot of plastic, maybe some artists that draw, but there isn't really, unless you go to the really large cons, there isn't really sort of this artistic element. And so it's something super unique that you're able to bring to it. So what happened at that first con, and tell us a little more about how your relationship with them has developed.
Well, the very first cut, I did very well. I mean, I did really well because people saw it and they couldn't believe it. And also, as well, though, it was just after lockdown when we were allowed out. So we all were slightly wanting to spend our money at that point. But I did really well. And I knew at that point I had to set up a Facebook and an Instagram, and I had no idea how to do any of this. And luckily, at the hardware store was full of sort of 18-year-old boys who all sort of showed me how to set this up, and sort of set it all up for me. And then, first of all, they're like, Emma, you have to try and get sort of 100 followers. And I thought, I can't do that. How on earth do you do that? But it's all about the image and sort of playing the game and joining groups, and I now have a following of about, I don't know, about 3,000 people, I think, now. I mean, yes, a lot of them are middle-aged men who love the work, and this is where I found my main customer at the Comic Cons tend to be a man of a certain age who quite likes something to hang in their man cave. And
Hmm.
they might not always buy at the Comic Con. They might sort of be too embarrassed, perhaps, to be seen buying the glass. But I'll get home and there'll be an email from them, Emma, can you make this? Or Emma, can you make that? And it's like, yeah, don't worry, your secret's safe with me. So it's all become very tongue in cheek, but I love that. But the Comic Cons have caught on, and once you get into one, it's easier to move on, and others are more accepting because they realise that actually I'm capable of my products like any other product. I'm capable of, if it's going to be at a Star Trek convention, to sort of make more Star Trekky pieces. It doesn't have to be that it's, I don't make flowers and butterflies and animals. I can cater towards what's going to be there.
Hmm. And also the reality for you as well, because you are early into making stained glass for some of these unique things in sort of the comic, sci-fi, that kind of world. I suspect when a lot of people first see your product that have never come across you, it probably blows their mind a little, like, "Oh, I'd never thought about it." And they take your card and they go home and they realize, "Oh, I should have bought that." So
Yeah,
they're following up, "Well, could you make this? Or could you make it a little bit like this?" Because they're gussying up the man cave a little. And I have this theory that, men with their man cave, it doesn't mean they don't want nice things in their man cave. It just who has put something in front of them that fits the aesthetic of the man cave is
that's
really the
correct.
thing.
Yes, yes.
And particularly for some of these different genres in sci-fi and other things, they are very dedicated, sometimes almost rabid fandoms. Like, people love their characters and things inspired by it. So I can definitely see, especially once someone's of a certain age, then that's really your market. Is you're really looking for middle-aged folks. You're not looking for people that are maybe brand new to a con and they can't really afford anything. So it's not really a Gen Z market. It's a little more of a probably older millennial Gen X type market for you, which means then you market to them differently, and that means your aesthetic is different. And so, talk a little bit about what that meant you did with the design of your craft fair display, because I think that's an important piece to your overall aesthetic.
Well, my design for my actual stand and my stall, I try and not to make it look too plasticky and too cheap. I feel it has to match the product. I mean, I'm not going to pretend my product isn't a cheap product, and I don't think the stall should look cheap. So I've had my stands are handmade wooden stands, and I think the wood goes nicely with the glass. When I do a craft, or not craft fair, a Comic Con or something, a big event, I have a big banner that hangs above me that has sort of the glass crocodile on it. So people, they can see me, they know where I am. I always dress in a certain way because I think, although I wouldn't necessarily dress like this, every day when I'm working, I think people they like to associate it and they remember it. They remember the Crocodile Dundee hat and they associate it. And I think all those little things are important. And they didn't all just come all at once, all at the beginning. I mean, the very first show I did was just a little white table with a couple of pieces on it, but they sold. And I suspect they still would sell, but it wouldn't be me. And I have to remain true to who I am. I've done that all the way through. And I think it's so, so important.
Mhm. And I think another thing that was really interesting about how, as you've narrowed in on, you've figured out kind of your target market, that you're doing a variety of these cons. So speak a little bit about this Stargate one that you
Oh, the
did and how
Stargate
you
one,
approached it.
yes. I've done it 2 years in a row. But the first year I did it, what happened was that the actual event was in April, but the organizer didn't actually contact me till February. So people don't realise that my product takes time to make. So I didn't have time to make any Stargate stuff the first year. I just took what I could,
Mm.
and luckily, David Tennant was at that very first Stargate event, even though he's not Stargatey, but so he's Doctor Who. So I did sell an awful lot of Doctor Who bits. But then for this year, sorry, it was in April this year. I was ready. I was ready. I was full on. I know what I need to do, and I spent 4 months over the winter, and I made Stargate after Stargate after Stargate, and they were all handmade, and they were all different, and they were all beautiful. And the event ran from Friday to Sunday. But the people from America caught wind that I was there. And on day one, on the Friday, they stood in a big long line and bought every Stargate I had. Every Stargate I had. And it was wonderful. It's wonderful to think that my work is going off just all over the place. It's incredible. And that they saw it, and they knew that it would travel. It goes in a box and that they could take it away. But yeah, so fantastic. But yeah, you have to cater a little bit to your event. So, but I have had actually I didn't speak to you about this, Amber, but I have had a couple of famous customers.
Oh, elaborate? Who have been a few of your famous customers, if you're willing to share?
Well, you may not have heard of them. One of them you will have heard of. So at the Comic Con events that I do, there are obviously a lot of guests who are famous.
Mhm.
So Peter Ross was one of them. He was in Star Wars and he bought a Yoda piece for his son. But wait for this, Brian Blessed from Flash Gordon,
Mhm.
Gordon's
Mhm.
Alive, bought a canine. He is a
Oh.
fan and he spoke to me about Glass Crocodile, and he even interacted with with the crocodile puppet. He was a trooper. He was a trooper, Brian Blessed.
And what was your reaction when he comes up to your table? Did you know who he was when he
Of
came up and
course,
started
of
interacting?
course,
Okay. Okay.
of course, yes.
And
But
how did you react? I mean, did you like freak out on the spot? Did you remain calm? Like, talk
no,
about
I'm
that.
very much. I mean, I go to a lot of these events now, and these to me, these people are just people. And I
Hmm.
did say to him, I'm not surprised he came up because he's a middle-aged man. What can I say?
He's your target market.
He is. He is.
But it has to be gratifying to see that so many people have looked at what you've done and they've just understood it immediately and been purchasers of it. And, whenever you kind of narrow in on a market, you're always trying to figure out, well, what gets people to buy. And so you're experimenting, and will my aesthetic appeal to people? So it has to be gratifying to see that so many people, this is really appealing, and that they line up like your own little fandom now at these events because now they start to know who you are. So that has got to feel good. So speak a little bit more about just even your emotional journey from that first part to where you're at right now, because those first few years in business are really hard.
Yeah, well, this is me entering my third year, and I mean it's been tough. I'm not going to pretend to anybody that it's been easy because it has been tough. And I've stood at events and sold very little, and people around me are selling plastic, and people are just loving it, and I'm there thinking, what am I doing wrong? But the people that do buy from me and get it, they're the people that matter. I mean, they just people that buy from me buy again and again and again because they love it. And I still can't believe that people buy something that I made. I mean, it's like I made it
Mhm.
and you're buying it. It's just mad. It's madness. But I love it, Amber. I love it. And I wouldn't want to do anything else.
Mhm. So this has been super fun hearing about your journey, having you come on camera, given that normally you don't show yourself and it's all the work. So it's been really fun getting to talk with you. I am sure there are some people following this that are like, okay, how do I follow her? I need to see all of this stuff that she makes. How do people follow you on the socials?
Well, Amber, I do have a website, which is glasscrocodile.co.uk, but I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, again, just at the Glass Crocodile. And normally I am hiding behind an emoji. So today, here I am. But it would be lovely to see anybody who wants to follow or contact or message me.
Hmm. Wonderful. Well, this has been great. I have loved hearing your story and how you're applying your skills and how it grew out of the lockdown and you've embraced this next chapter of life. So, thank you so much for joining us today, Emma. And thank you to everyone else that has listened and tuned in, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Mhm.